Hi there, friend. Let me ask you something that might sound simple but carries a lot of weight. Have you ever sat by the window with a cup of tea, watching the world outside, and suddenly wondered, who will be there with me in the years to come? If you're over 70 or somewhere close to it, you've probably asked yourself that more than once. It's a quiet question, not one we shout out loud. But it's there, deep inside. Should I keep living alone? Should I move in with my kids? Is there a better way for someone like me to stay independent and still not feel lonely? You see, how and where we live in this stage of life affects everything: our energy, our mental health, our safety, our sense of purpose. The truth is, there's no one-size-fits-all. But what does exist are options. Beautiful, flexible, thoughtful options that can make this chapter of life not just livable, but joyful. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. 6 different living arrangements that can help you, or someone you love, feel safer, more connected, and most importantly, happier after 70. But first, let's take a breath together. This isn't about making big, scary changes overnight. This is about opening the door, just a little, to new ideas, new possibilities. Whether you're fiercely independent or someone who enjoys being surrounded by people, there's something here for you. Let's start with a living style that many seniors already choose, but often don't talk about much. Because sometimes, we confuse being alone with being strong. There's a quiet strength in living alone. No one tells you what to eat, what time to sleep, or how loud to play the television. You get to do things your way. And honestly, that kind of independence can feel really good, especially when you've spent a lifetime caring for others. But here's the catch. When you're living alone after 70, the silence that once felt peaceful can start feeling a little too silent. Maybe your children are grown, your spouse has passed, your friends have moved away. And what used to be freedom now starts to feel like isolation. That's why if you're living alone, it's essential, absolutely essential, to build connection into your daily life. That could mean joining a local book club, taking morning walks with a neighbor, or having lunch with your niece every Thursday. Loneliness is a quiet thing, but it chips away at the soul if we're not careful. Now, let's talk about another living option that more and more seniors are starting to explore. It's one that might surprise you: living with a friend. Yes, you heard that right, just like college roommates, only better. Because this time, you're wiser, you know yourself better, and chances are, you actually enjoy slower mornings and early bedtimes. Living with a friend, especially someone around your age, can be a beautiful way to share costs, keep each other company, and avoid that sense of emptiness that sometimes creeps in when you're all by yourself. You split the rent, the groceries, the chores, and in return, you get laughter in the kitchen and someone to ask, "Did you catch that show last night?" It doesn't have to be forever. It doesn't even have to be full-time. But for many older adults, choosing a trusted friend as a housemate can make the golden years feel just a little more golden. Of course, for some people, the first thought that comes up when we talk about aging and living arrangements is this: maybe I should just move in with my kids. And that's our next option. Now, moving in with family can be beautiful. It can bring a sense of comfort, of being surrounded by people you love, of feeling included. You get to be near the grandkids, eat home-cooked meals together, maybe even help out a little with the house. But let's be real, it's not always a fairy tale. Sometimes, the rhythms of a younger household just don't match yours anymore. The kids are always busy, the house is noisy, privacy can be hard to find. And unless everyone in the home communicates clearly and respectfully, things can get tense, fast. So if you're thinking about moving in with your children, take the time to talk honestly with them. What are the expectations on both sides? Will you have your own space? Your own routines? Are you helping with childcare? Or are you just sharing a roof? When it works, it's wonderful. But the key word there is when. Don't just move in out of obligation. Choose it because it fits your heart, your needs, your rhythm. And don't be afraid to say, let's try this for 6 months and see how it goes. So far, we've explored 3 different living paths after 70: living alone with intentional connection, sharing a home with a trusted friend, and living with family. Each one has its ups and downs. But the beauty lies in choice. In recognizing that your happiness matters, and that you have a right to build a living situation that reflects your values, your personality, and your peace. Now, let's pause for a moment. Can you see yourself in any of these? Can you imagine what your days might feel like in each setup? Which one makes your shoulders relax a little? Which one brings up hesitation? It's okay not to have an answer yet. What matters is that you're asking the question. Let's keep this conversation going because there are still more options to consider, options that are becoming more and more popular for a reason. They're changing what it means to grow older. And who knows? One of them might just be the perfect fit for you. So now that we've gently opened the door to the first few possibilities, living solo with intention, moving in with a friend, or sharing space with family, let's take one more step forward. Because for many people after 70, the heart wants something more balanced. Something that offers community, yet preserves privacy. Support, but still freedom. And that's exactly where our next living style comes in. You might have heard of it, maybe even passed by one in your neighborhood without realizing, but let's really take a look at what it could mean for someone like you. Independent senior living communities. Now, don't let the name fool you. These aren't gloomy nursing homes or hospital-like facilities. Far from it. Think of a neighborhood built just for people over a certain age, usually 55 or 60 and up, designed to make life easier, more comfortable, and a lot more enjoyable. You live in your own apartment or cottage. You have your own kitchen, your own couch, your own morning routines. But just outside your door, a community of people in the same stage of life. People who understand the aches and joys of growing older. People who might want to play cards in the afternoon or join a yoga class or walk the gardens at sunset. What's special about these places is they strike a gentle balance. You get the privacy you're used to, but you're never too far from a friend. There's usually staff on hand for emergencies. Many offer meal options, transportation, and even scheduled outings. You're still living independently, but you're surrounded by a safety net that brings peace of mind. And here's something beautiful I've noticed. A lot of folks who were hesitant about these communities at first, who thought, I don't want to be around a bunch of old people all day, end up discovering joy. Real joy. Because once they step in, they realize these aren't places of waiting, they're places of living. Now, not everyone is ready or able to make that kind of move. And that's okay. Which brings us to a more flexible, modern option that's gaining popularity, especially among seniors who want to age in place but don't want to do it all alone. Co-living with support. Picture this, a shared home where each resident has their own room, maybe even their own bathroom. You all share a cozy kitchen, a living space, maybe a backyard. And here's the key, there's a caregiver or home assistant living on-site or visiting daily. Not to take over your life, but to help. To cook meals, remind you to take your medications, help with laundry, or just check in with a warm smile. It's not a nursing home. It's not a hospital. It's a real house. It's community with a little structure. For seniors who are mostly independent but could use a bit of help here and there, this setup is a game changer. And it's often more affordable than full-time care or assisted living. What I love about this model is that it brings back something many of us miss. The feeling of a shared home. Of hearing someone else in the kitchen while you're reading in the den. Of knowing someone will knock on your door if they haven't seen you all morning. It's quiet companionship, with a little help tucked in where you need it. And let's not forget, aging doesn't mean giving up your voice. In these co-living homes, residents often come together to set house rules, decide meal plans, even host holiday gatherings. You're not a patient. You're a person, a participant, a member of something warm and real. And now, I want to share one final living style that's both tender and bold. One that requires a little courage and a lot of heart. But for the right person, it can be the most fulfilling path of all. Living abroad or relocating for lifestyle. Now hang on, before you say, I'm too old for that. Hear me out. In recent years, thousands of retirees, especially from the US, have chosen to relocate to places like Portugal, Costa Rica, Mexico, Thailand, and even parts of Eastern Europe. Because in many of these countries, the cost of living is lower, healthcare is affordable and reliable, the pace of life is gentle, and the community is welcoming. I've met folks who moved abroad at 72, learned basic Spanish, and now spend their mornings walking by the sea and their afternoons sipping tea with neighbors from around the world. They didn't do it to escape, They did it to rediscover, to start fresh, to write a new chapter. Now, this path isn't for everyone. Comes with challenges, language barriers, cultural differences, distance from family. But for some, those challenges are the very things that make life feel vivid again. There's something powerful about waking up in a new place, where the sun feels a little warmer and the days stretch just a bit longer. And if moving overseas feels too big, relocating within your own country is still a wonderful option. Maybe a smaller town with a better climate. Maybe closer to a sibling or an old friend. Maybe somewhere near a senior center that offers classes you've always wanted to take. Where you live shapes how you feel. It shapes your routine, your relationships, your sense of peace. And after 70, you've earned the right to make that choice with full intention. Whether it's a friendly house shared with others, a senior living community with its own rhythm, or a sunlit apartment in a small beach town, the question is no longer just, who should I live with? It's also, what kind of life do I want to live, and who makes me feel most alive when I'm with them? Take a moment with that thought. Let it settle in. Because you deserve more than just a roof over your head. You deserve warmth, laughter, dignity, and ease. And no matter which path you choose, know this: there is no shame in changing your mind, in trying something new, or in saying, this is what feels right for me right now. You know, it's funny, when we're younger, we imagine that the older we get, the more we'll crave quiet. But in reality, many people discover the opposite. Silence isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it feels like emptiness. And what fills that space best, more than anything, is connection. That's why the final form of living I want to share isn't just about structure or convenience. It's about heart. It's about choosing to be around people who bring life into your days. People who remind you that laughter still belongs to you, that stories still matter, and that your presence still lights up a room. So let's talk about one of the most beautiful and often overlooked options out there. Multi-generational living with chosen family. Not necessarily blood relatives, not always children or grandchildren. I'm talking about building or joining a small household of people, any age, who want to live with purpose, kindness, and shared care. Maybe it's a niece and her partner who offer you the upstairs room and invite you to dinner on Sundays. Maybe it's two longtime friends who decide, let's rent a house together and bring in a caregiver when we need it. Or maybe it's someone you meet through your community, a neighbor, a church friend, someone who simply feels like family, who says, there's always space here for you. This kind of living doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't require contracts or labels. What it does require is communication, trust, and a shared understanding of what each person brings into the home. And let me tell you, this style of living is more common than you might think. All over the country, especially after the pandemic, people of all ages started rethinking the way we live. Instead of isolation, they looked toward togetherness. They created blended homes, where a 75-year-old painter might live with a 40-year-old teacher and her two teenage kids. Or where 3 retired women turn a farmhouse into their dream retreat, taking turns cooking dinner and keeping the garden. There's a reason this works so well. It meets 2 deep human needs, to be useful and to be loved. In these homes, everyone has a role. Everyone matters. And that sense of meaning can be as nourishing as any medicine. Now, that brings us to something I hear often, but what if I just want to live alone? And that's a valid, heartfelt feeling. For some, solitude is sacred. It brings calm, clarity, and control. You wake when you want, you move at your pace, you answer to no one. That freedom? It's a kind of wealth. And you've earned it. But even those who choose to live alone need a sense of community outside the walls of their home. Whether it's a senior center, a local church, a weekly walk with a friend, or even a simple phone call routine, you don't have to be surrounded by people to stay connected. The goal isn't constant company. The goal is meaningful company. And that can take any form you want. The beauty of this stage of life is that you get to choose. Now, let's pause for a moment and breathe that in. Because everything we've explored, living with family, friends, independently, or even far from where you grew up, it all points to the same truth. After 70, your living arrangement isn't just about where you sleep. It's about how you live. It's about what you wake up to, who you hear in the hallway, whether you feel safe, valued, and seen. Whether you can walk into the kitchen and make a cup of tea without feeling like a burden or an afterthought. I've spoken to hundreds of older adults over the years, and you know what the happiest ones have in common? It's not money. It's not perfect health. It's not even a big family. It's this: they feel like they belong. Sometimes that belonging comes from being surrounded by grandchildren. Other times it comes from a tight-knit group of friends who text each other funny pictures and meet for soup on Tuesdays. Sometimes it's the quiet companionship of a pet who curls up on your lap and listens to the same jazz you've played for decades. Belonging looks different for each of us, but we know it when we feel it. And that's why I want to gently remind you, if where you live now no longer brings you peace, you're allowed to make a change. If your days feel too quiet, if your nights feel too long, if you find yourself craving more light, more laughter, more life, it's not too late to reach for it. You don't have to do it all at once. Maybe it starts with a conversation. Maybe it's a phone call to a family member. Maybe you look up a local senior community and just take a tour. Maybe you reach out to a friend and say, "Would you ever want to share a space?" You are not too old to start over. You are not too old to choose joy. And you are certainly not too old to be surrounded by people who remind you of your worth. And if no one's told you this lately, let me be the one. You matter. Your comfort matters. Your happiness matters. Choosing how, and with whom, you live is one of the most powerful choices you can make in this season of life. And the best part? You don't have to follow anyone's rules. You can carve your own path. Whether that's a cozy apartment filled with books and sunlight, a bustling home with family meals and baby giggles, or a simple room in a home where your best friend lives just down the hall. The form doesn't matter as much as the feeling. Do you feel safe? Do you feel seen? Do you feel a sense of joy when you open your front door? If not, let's change that. Not someday. Not when it's time. But now. You've given so much to the world. Now let the world give something back. A living space that lifts you. A rhythm that suits you. A home that reminds you you're not alone. You know, if there's one thing I've learned from talking to people in their 70s, 80s, even 90s, it's this: getting older doesn't mean you stop dreaming. It just means your dreams get simpler, wiser, and often more beautiful. You stop dreaming about having more things, and start dreaming about feeling more alive. About waking up and having a reason to smile. About hearing footsteps in the hallway and knowing they belong to someone who's glad you're there. About sitting by a window with a good cup of tea and thinking, yes, this is where I'm supposed to be. That's what this conversation has really been about, hasn't it? Not just about where to live after 70, but how to live well. How to live with intention, with connection, with joy. Because here's the truth, at this age, your time is more precious than ever. So is your peace. You don't have to settle for loneliness. You don't have to accept discomfort as your normal. You don't have to keep going on with things just because it's always been that way. You have every right to ask, is this still working for me? And if the answer is no, you have every right to do something about it. Maybe that means moving in with family, not out of need, but out of love. Maybe it's creating a house with friends, full of shared meals and late-night laughter. Maybe it's finally embracing that senior community down the street, the one with the game nights and the garden club and the friendly faces you've passed 100 times but never really met. Or maybe it's staying right where you are, but adding people to your life in new, meaningful ways. A visiting companion, a neighbor who drops by, a caregiver who becomes a friend, a grandchild who calls you every Wednesday without fail. Because the people around you, the ones who listen, who laugh with you, who ask how you're really doing, they matter. They are the difference between simply existing and truly living. And let me say this, if you're feeling stuck or unsure, or even scared about making a change, that's okay. Fear is natural. So is hesitation. We all want to feel safe. We all want to feel in control. But sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is to say, I deserve more than this. More connection, more care, and more than anything, more choice. That's the heart of it. Having the choice to live how you want, with whom you want, in a way that makes you feel alive. And that choice doesn't disappear just because you turn 70, or 80, or beyond. In fact, it becomes even more important. Because when you choose the life that lights you up, others around you feel it too. You become a source of warmth, of wisdom, of calm. You don't just survive, you shine. You know, there's this saying I love. Home isn't a place. It's a feeling. And it's true. Home is where you feel accepted, where your quirks are loved, where you can sit in silence and still feel connected, where your story is known and your presence is cherished. So I invite you, gently, lovingly, to think about your home. Not just the walls and the furniture, but the feeling. Does it nourish you? Does it hold you with kindness? Does it reflect the life you want to live now, not the one you used to live or the one others expect from you? If not, maybe it's time to write a new chapter. Not because something is wrong, but because something more beautiful might be waiting. And before I close, I want to tell you this from the bottom of my heart. You are not too old to create a life that feels good. You are not too late to surround yourself with people who bring light. You are not too far gone to laugh again, love again, live again. You are still becoming, still growing, still maturing, every single day. And whatever shape your living arrangement takes, whatever form it ends up in, what matters most is that you feel safe, seen, and satisfied. Whether you choose to live with family, with friends, with a community, or independently with support, let it be a choice made with your heart. Because your happiness isn't a luxury, it's a need. And your joy isn't selfish, it's a gift to the world. So if this message touched something in you today, if it stirred a question or sparked a memory, or maybe just reminded you that you're allowed to want more, I hope you take that feeling seriously. Talk to someone you trust. Ask questions. Make a list. Go to that place. Have that conversation. Open that door. Because the best years of your life aren't behind you. They're in front of you, just waiting for you to walk in. And if you've made it all the way to this point in the video, thank you. Truly. It means the world that you spent your time here, and I hope it brought you clarity, comfort, or just a little more courage. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below. Tell me how you are living, or how you want to live. Let's create a space where stories and ideas and hopes are shared, because you never know who might read your words and find the strength to make a change themselves. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like. It really helps more people discover this message. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want more warm, thoughtful conversations like this one. Wherever you are right now, whatever season you're in, I'm rooting for you. Stay safe, stay hopeful, and most of all, stay you. Because you're wonderful, just as you are.